dashboarding, so you can create multiple different dashboards for different roles of the users, for the project managers, for the developers, for the testers, for the business analysts. And these dashboards can include both graphical as well as textual or tabular reports. And finally, you have the administrative configuration interface to manage the integration business rules. Actually, that is another very important point I would like to kind of explain a little bit. You see that when you're creating a point-to-point integration, the business rules, how the data is going from one tool to another tool, are all hard-coded in the integration code itself. For example, I can say that only the approved requirements should go from Requisite Pro to Quality Center, which is a test management tool, from requirements management to test management tool. So this is a kind of business rule, and that will be hard-coded in the point-to-point integration. Whereas in Kovair, in Omnibus, as a matter of fact, you do not hard-code that as a part of the adapter. Remember that we have adapters for each of these tools. The adapters are actually a thin layer around the tool just to expose the data, the events, the methods of that each individual tools. And the business rules are actually managed and created and maintained by the end users using a browser-based interface just by a drag-and-drop interface. And finally, you have the Omnibus execution engine, which actually runs all these different kinds of business rules and integration logics and everything using these adapters. The other components of Omnibus is the adapters. Of course, for every tool, you need the adapter. And we actually have two kinds of adapters. One we call the adapters for those tools, which has got its own repository. So for example, Requisite Pro or Quality Center, which has got its own database or repositories, we have the adapters for them. Then you have the tools which does not have its own repository, like Visual Studio or Eclipse. For those, we have the plugins. So in the demo, Otanu actually will show you both the adapters and the plugins with respect to the individual tools. Okay, so today's demo, actually we are using a number of tools here as it is shown. We will, as a matter of fact, start with the submission of a request from our corporate website. So that actually shows the integration with web pages, web forms. And then we'll be using the Requisite Pro for requirements management, both Visual Studio and Eclipse for coding as an IDE, Perforce and TFS for configuration management. That is actually another interesting point, that you can actually use multiple different tools for the same functionality, and they just work great working with each other. And then we'll be using the Quality Center, HP Quality Center for test management. And Kovair will be used as a central project management and reporting, etc. So here is a quick demo scenario. So as I mentioned, that we'll start with the customer requirements submitted from the corporate website. Then Mark, who is a kind of analyst, will go to Requisite Pro, see that particular customer requirement is replicated there, create a new functional requirement in Requisite Pro, and create the traceability link between them. Then we'll go to Ted. Ted is a tester. He will work on the Quality Center, and he will see the same customer requirement there, and then create a test case and create traceability link between the test case and that customer requirement. Then we'll see Dev as a developer, start with the Visual Studio, and within Visual Studio, you'll be able to see all the different items we have so far created: the customer requirements submitted from the corporate website, functional requirements from the Requisite Pro, test cases from Quality Center, and sitting in Visual Studio using the Kovair plugin, he will be able to see all of those things. Then he will actually create basically the class and methods and projects sitting in Visual Studio and link those things with a customer requirement, basically saying that to implement the customer requirement, I need this method, I need this class, etc. And also he will check in that particular class file in TFS. He will also use Perforce, Dave, also use Perforce to check in the code file linking to the customer requirement. So he'll be able to use the both Perforce as well as TFS for configuration management. Then we'll go to SharePoint, and we'll see that customer requirement is replicated in SharePoint as an item in requirement custom list, and then we'll upload a document in SharePoint and link it to the same customer requirement. And finally, we'll also see how Eclipse user can do and see exactly the same thing which a typical Visual Studio user does. As a matter of fact, we find that there are many, many organizations where both Eclipse and Visual Studios are used by the development. And then finally, we'll come to Kovair, and as a project manager, Mary should be able to see all sorts of different kinds of reports and the traceability hierarchy, traceability network diagram, and a number of different kinds of dashboards and reports. Okay, so that's the kind of demo. And as you can see, it's a pretty long demo, and I don't want to waste any more time and give it to Atanu to start. But before I hand it over to Atanu, one more thing. If you have any question, please use the question panel. There is a panel of the GoToWebinar there, and please type your question so that at the end of the demonstration, we would love to kind of address all of your questions you may have. Okay? So let me transfer it to Atanu. So hold on a second. Okay, Atanu, you're in.
Okay, thanks, Kai. Good afternoon, everybody. So as Kai mentioned that we will go through an example application development scenario today where different stakeholders are using their tools of choice, and we will see how they remain connected throughout the application lifecycle stages using the integrated ALM environment provided by Kovair Omnibus. So let's start with the customer submitting a request or requirement from a portal site. So the page you are looking at, this is the Kovair contact page, and you can see there is a link for customer requirement submission. So let's click on that. This is the kind of waveform created specifically for this demo to capture the customer request, but the look and feel of this particular page can be configured as per your corporate or product theme. So now let's start filling in the information here. So let's give the title for this. So advanced search for products, and this request is submitted from the portal. So this is the requirement. Let's put John Wright as the author, and company is ABC. It's a requirement type is customer. As you can see, all these field values. This is also coming through Kovair Omnibus API from the configuration store. Okay, you can see different request type. Let's put the priority as high, and let's put a description for the request. Now let's save it. So what is happening in the background, this customer request is getting submitted to Kovair Omnibus, and then as per your integration flow configuration, these customer requests can be broadcasted to different tools used by different stakeholders. Okay, so now let's go to a different server. And let's open up the requirements management tool, which is Requisite Pro. So in our case, Mark is a requirement analyst, and he is using the Requisite Pro tool for managing the requirements. And this is the interface for the Requisite Pro. As you can see, this is the project folder, and under which you can see several customer and functional requirements. And one of them is, as you can see, CR624, Advanced Search for Products Request from Portal. So this is the customer request we just submitted from the Kovair portal site.